Stadium, the Cowboys give up the least amount of points to an opponent by a Cowboys team this season. So the Cowboys defense kind of figured it out against Cincinnati, a very struggling Cincinnati offense. So we're going to break it down for you here on The First Word. Kyle Yeoman's with you, along with former Dallas Cowboys. We've got Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, and Barry Church. But Isaiah, I'm going to start with you on this one. We're going to start with the defense here. Defense gives up under 20 points for the first time this season, and it took 13 games to do it, but they did it today.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Patience is a virtue. That's what they say. And, we waited a long time for these guys to come out here and take care of business. We forced 3 turnovers. I'm going to say it again. 3 turnovers early in the game, and that was really the difference maker here as these guys go out here and get the victory. It's hard for a team to overcome that, as we very well know. Luckily, we were the benefactors of it this week instead of the other team.
You know, and it's amazing. You look at this game, you say, man, it took all of these weeks to get these 3 turnovers to make something happen like this. But I'm happy for the Dallas Cowboys, man, because maybe they can start building some momentum. Saw some young guys play pretty good, but those 3 turnovers were key, as this young man to my right said.
Yeah, those 3 turnovers were definitely key in the win for this game. I mean, it was, to me, this defensive performance was the ultimate bend but don't break. I mean, in between the 20s, the Cincinnati Bengals were able to drive the ball. They were still able to run the ball on this defense, and that's something that I'm a little bit worried about going forward. But overall, they were bend but don't break. When they got into the red zone, they were able to hold this Cincinnati team down, hold them to field goals for the most part of the game. So overall, I think it was one of the better games that the defense has performed. They need to still get better against that run, though.
And it kind of felt odd from an offensive standpoint. I mean, the Cowboys end up just with 272 yards of total offense, and Andy Dalton really didn't even get a chance to get going. He was kind of managing the game early on, finished 16 of 23 for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. Isaiah, what did you think about what Andy Dalton brought to the table and how this Cowboys offense was firing today?
I thought Andy Dalton came to play. I think we saw it last week. He started really getting his mojo back. And this week, I don't think it was any different. He came in. He was efficient. The fact of the matter is he didn't get the ball that much. He didn't have that many opportunities. When your defense goes over and turns the ball, gets the ball back for you, or your defense goes out there and scores touchdown, big Alden Smith huffing and puffing all the way down there to get you some points, you don't have to do as much. I mean, once you get ahead in the game, you're allowed to then just be a game manager. They were able to hand the ball off to Zeke, try to get Pollard going, and there's really no need to really take, to air the ball out.
It was just a nice game. I mean, 13 weeks, 14 weeks, we've been looking for this type of performance, and they played complimentary football. It took a while, and I know the team that they played isn't as good as other teams they played, but you have to start somewhere. And today was a good, solid game for these guys. And I'm going to go with you, Church. If we can just ever bottle up that run, we may can do some special things finishing out the season strong.
Yeah, it was a great game as far as complimentary, like you're saying. I mean, it was a lot. The takeaways from the defense, they were able to give our offense short fields, and Andy Dalton was able to take advantage of it. I think it was one of his better games this season. I mean, the ball placement he was putting out there, to me, was amazing. I mean, it was only one person that could catch it, and it was his receiver. If they didn't get it, the defender had no chance on it. So I felt like he played a great game. He seemed cool, calm, and collected. He didn't let the emotions of going back home into Cincinnati get the better of him. He was able to drive this team down the field and get us the victory. And like I said, his ball placement was on point today. Hopefully we can see more of that with these remaining 3 games for the Dallas Cowboys.
And it seemed like he was having fun, which is always nice to see whenever, of course, he's going up against a former team. There was a little bit of added pressure there, but it didn't seem like it. It seemed like he was back home. He was having a little bit of fun going up against Cincinnati, but not as fun for the running game today. And I want to ask you guys, does it worry you in the fact that Zeke only had 12 carries for 48 yards and then Pollard was held under 40 yards on 11 carries against a bottom 4 rush defense in Cincinnati today?
The verdict on that is yes. We have to find a way to get this ground game going. I don't know what it's going to take. I think Coach Philbin's done an absolutely awesome job, mixing things up in terms of working with his personnel to establish a solid offensive line with the personnel that he has at his disposal. However, it's not transitioning into a consistent running game. And the reason why we are, sitting here now at 4-9 is because we haven't had a consistent running game. It's one of the factors. And, we have the running backs to do it. Something has to change within our scheme, within our approach. We have to find a way to become efficient because right now we're not.
when you win 30-7 due to the turnovers, you don't worry as much, but it's always going to be a factor. Running the ball, you got Zeke, you got Tony Pollard, and you're going to want things to happen. But this offensive line, they're holding on. They're maintaining. Coach Philbin, once again, great job. And they're just trying to find a way. And that way was complementary football, defense playing well, getting the 3 turnovers, guys being efficient enough to maintain the ball. I mean, you just have to settle for what you can get at this time.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. You're definitely going to have to settle for what you can get right now. I mean, we have a patchwork offensive line going right now. A lot of injuries. A lot of our stars, our all-stars, are out for the season. So
yes.
Right now, we're working with a patchwork, and I think Philbin is doing an amazing job with these guys as far as pass protection goes. Because this is another game. Yes, Andy Dalton went down a couple of times today, but for the most part, he had a clean pocket, and he was able to go out there and throw the ball well. But in the running game, it seems pretty muddied up. Like it's stuffed up in there. It's hard to get a running lane for our runners out there, Zeke or the change of pace back in Tony Pollard, to get any traction or anything going. So we're going to have to figure out somehow, some way. Maybe it's creativity. Maybe it's a different way to get these guys the ball and get them involved in the run game. But we're going to have to figure out some type of way to get this run game going, at least for some momentum going into next year.
And we mentioned the turnovers on the defensive side of the football, but I'm curious to see what you guys think about what the secondary brought to the table today. Of course, Cheeto Awuzie out. Both Donovan Wilson and Anthony Brown were inactive. They were thin as is and then kind of banged up on the back end of that game as well. But Isaiah, what did you see from the secondary that worried you, but also might be something positive moving into the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of positive that I could take away. Maybe Barry, being a secondary guy, can take a little bit more from it on a positive end. But I think these guys were still getting routed up. I think Tyler Boyd was able to show his skill set. I think A.J. Green had a reawakening. And it just Higgins had a couple catches in there as well. There wasn't much. We played a pretty soft shell defense today. We played a lot of too high, a lot of cover 4, which is you guys playing quarters of the field, not allowing things to get behind them so much. That bend but don't break defense, as these guys have alluded to. So there wasn't much out there for us to see, but these guys were still getting beat, and whenever they did have those one-on-one matchups.
And you know what, Mr. Standback, we've been begging for 10 weeks to say, keep guys in front of you.
Yep.
Because the first few weeks, guys were running behind us. So we finally understood that we can keep guys in front of us and come up and tackle them. We can be church-like. Thank you.
This is true. I mean, they did a great job today in keeping everything in front of them.
Yeah.
Like Isaiah said, they were getting routed up there for the most part of the game, but they were able to come in and make the tackle. They minimized those large gains after the catch. So that is a positive for them. And these guys that came in there for these injured players, they were scrappy out there. I mean, the technique wasn't as great as it should be, and the communication wasn't that great, but those guys showed fight out there, and each and every snap they competed with those receivers. Yes, A.J. Green woke back up and he showed that he can be a number 1 receiver out there, but those guys definitely scrapped and they did their best, and we ended up coming away with the W today.
There were things to grow on. There were things to learn from in this game. I mean, both ways, especially whenever you go up against a team like Cincinnati that only has the 2 wins in 2020. Isaiah, what can you take from a win like this? Because the competition that's in front of you. You can only play who's on the other side of the line of scrimmage. But at the same time, you gained a game in the NFC East, and you're still technically in the hunt for the division. But what can you take from a game like this?
You take the positives. I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, you're able to move the ball through the air. You're able to keep your quarterback protected. That's something that's been a challenge all year long. So you improve there. When you talk about the special teams, we didn't run any crazy reverses or throws or fake punts or anything like that, right? You played a good game at special teams. Your punter, he continues to show up. He continues to boot the ball down there inside the 5-yard line, 10-yard line sometimes. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we played that bend but don't break. We didn't get beat deep, which means that you give yourself an opportunity. Yes, more time's going to run off the clock as Arizona went out there. Not Arizona, but Jesus Louise, I can't even think right now. As Cincinnati went out there and had 15-play drives, right? It's not something you want, but a lot of them weren't resulting in touchdowns, and that's what you want. So there were positives, but and then the last positive is we have a chance to win the doggone division still.
Still there.
So
my one thing, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Church, is 7 points. They scored once, 7 points. When the last time we have not given up 34 points. I'm happy and I'm excited.
Yeah, hey, look, there's only one positive for me to take out of this, and that's that we got the W. I mean, look, it was ugly, it was scrappy, but, hey, the defense made more plays at the end of the game that we needed to make to get the W, and, hey, rejoice, be happy that we got the W.
Well, the Cowboys snap a 2-game losing skid, and they get win number 4 of the 2020 campaign. There's more post-game reaction and coverage on Dallas Cowboys coming up, but that's going to do it for us here on The First Word.